Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, even wherever you are. Thank you for joining me again for another live chat here on my channel. If you're new here, welcome. We welcome everybody new with big warm hugs. My name is Angela. I am a full time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator, and my channel is dedicated to those of you just getting started out in this wonderful world of voiceover and audiobook narration. And through my channel, I share with you tips and tricks and techniques and all kinds of things that I do every day in my own voiceover business, things that I have learned throughout the course of the last 6 years, almost exactly 6 years now. It's crazy how time flies. Anywho, if you're not new here, then you know every week we have a new poll, and that poll is usually the topic of today, but I'm sure we'll get into a few others. And this week the poll is: how often do you hear that you sound robotic in your voiceovers? And this sounding robotic usually comes in, it could be a couple of different definitions and what the client means. And we're going to talk about all of that stuff. So far, we have about 17 votes. 59% of you said never. That's good. 18% of you said once in a while, which I think is pretty normal, right? And we'll talk about why this happens and how to fix it. None of you said all the time, so that's good. And 24% of you said I haven't started yet. Good. So I'm hoping, again, as always, that something that we talk about or a question that may come up and may be answered could help you to move forward in your voiceover and audiobook narration endeavors. I'm not awake yet, although I have been recording for the last hour. So what does a client mean when they say that you sound robotic? Well, it could be, in my experience, a few different reasons or definitions for this. The most common is that when you're narrating a script, you are just reading the words that are on the page. It doesn't sound very natural. Instead of reading the words that are on the page, you are reading the words that are on the page, if you can see the differentiation there. The client could mean or could say something about maybe they want it more casual. You just flat out sound robotic, right? You're very articulate. You're enunciating every syllable. You're just being way too articulate, right? Instead of just sounding natural, you sound robotic. In other words, you sound like you are reading, basically. I have also found that when they said that you sound robotic, it could also be too professional. And I know that we come across some scripts where, let's just say medical narration, because that's a good one. When you're coming across a lot of words that you're unfamiliar with, that you have to look up the pronunciation for. And if you do need to do this, side note, I highly recommend Merriam-Webster. Don't rely on Google for pronunciation. Go to Merriam-Webster. There is phonetic spelling, and there's also audio files that you can listen to the pronunciation. Also, along that same vein, if you're looking for like a regional pronunciation of something, Youglish is a great website where you can punch in a word into Youglish in the search bar, and it'll pull up YouTube videos where this word is being said. So, air conditioner just came on, so I'm sorry if you hear the noise. But that is a good place to go to hear like a regional pronunciation of something. Don't want to get too far off track here, but so if you're narrating medical narration and you're having to look up a lot of words, of course they're not going to sound very natural, right? So then everything around it sort of has that same sound, or you're trying to sound too professional, right? And articulate more often than you normally would. Whoever said voiceover was easy was wrong, because it's not. It takes a lot more than you think it would. But some great ways to get around this thinking, especially if you're just starting, because also when you hit that record button, we tend to freeze up, right? We've talked about the counting to 5 and then acting in, previous live chats. But you hit that record button, then you're like in your head, you're like, oh, I need to be the voice actor now. I need to use my voice actor voice instead of just be you. So a good way to get around that is a couple of things. Is first, read through the script. Read through the script at least once. Look up any words that you're unfamiliar with. Change the script with a phonetic spelling, or make sure that you can fully pronounce the word as it should be, and then practice reading through that script several times to make it sound more natural, because that way you're not surprised by anything that comes up. You don't have to kill your flow, right? The more that you can practice it and to say it out loud, the more familiar you're going to be with the sight words and all the other words that are there, right? Another thing that I use quite a bit is, especially when you're needing to sound conversational, which is basically how I'm talking to you now, right? Like best friends talking to each other. You could be even like excited conversational, upbeat conversational. There's a lot of different descriptors for what clients want, and understanding that is something in and of itself. But another way to sound conversational is to start with a lead-in or a jump-off, however you want to explain it. But it's basically, if you have a picture of somebody in your studio, that really helps to make eye contact with somebody and say, hey, Eric, there was this cool thing that happened today, and then go into the script. That sort of tricks your brain from voice actor voice to this is just a conversation, right? This is just a discussion with a friend. Insert whoever's name, right? You don't have to use Eric. You can say, hey, Angela, guess what? I heard about this cool thing. Let me tell you about it, into the script. That really helps with tricking the brain. So you don't just go into the script sounding like the voice actor with their voice actor voice, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm not making fun of anybody, but I know that we've all done this from time to time, majority of us anyway, myself included. You get excited about hitting that record button. I'm going to be a voice actor, so I'm going to use my voice actor voice, right? We've all been there, I think, majority of us anyway. So I'm giggling about it because, been there myself. And a lot of people that I work with and that I talk to throughout the course of the days, a lot of questions that I get. I mean, this is still a prevalent issue, so I thought it was pertinent to bring it up today and talk about it. And I'm sure there'll be some comments in the comment section asking more questions about these things. So with that said, how do you get around the robotic voice, if you've heard that before? Also, I think, quick side note, because I wanted to mention this earlier, as far as what the clients are asking for, sometimes they're not quite sure how to articulate what they need. So sometimes you just have to make your best judgment, again, by reading through the script a few times out loud and making your own best interpretation based on how you feel the script reads to you as far as what the tone should be. And then also using the client's direction as, a way to figure out which way to go as far as tone. I'm trying to thwart the tangent. I had all these voices in my head. No tangent, pumping the brakes. So if you do your best interpretation of a script, and the client comes back and says it's too robotic, it could be not just that you sound like you're reading words. Maybe it's too professional. Maybe it's too articulate, right? Maybe you sound too much like an AI. I've heard that before. It's a blessing and a curse sounding like Siri. I can't help it. But anywho, I feel a tangent coming. So let's just go to the comments so we can thwart that. Oh, by the way, I'm doing like a 7-day trial on the 1080p resolution. Do I look any different? I don't feel like I look any clearer. I don't know if it's worth it at all. 1080p? I don't know. Side note, let's go to the comments. Let's get rid of that and let's go over to the comments. Let's see who's first in. Caesar. Hi, Caesar. Caesar says, there might have been this one time where I was overcompressed, resulting in a less than dynamic sounding read. But other than that, I'm usually told the opposite, that I sound real and natural. And you do. You do. And that is another thing, too. Your audio quality could be a reason that a client says you sound robotic. Maybe you're over processed. I usually find that noise reducers will do that most often, because if you think about, at its core, a noise reducer is there to remove like low frequency hum or low frequency sound, right? A low frequency. And if you use too much of it, then it's going to not only reduce the noise in your room, but it's also going to take those delicious deep tones out of your voice as well, making you sound sort of tinny or pixelated, sort of not natural, almost like a machine. So that's another reason that people could say you sound robotic. So something to keep in mind. And again, ask questions. It's okay to ask your client questions. It shows that you're invested. It shows that you're professional. It shows that you want to give them what they want, right? There's no shame in asking a client questions. I hear that all the time too. What do I do in this situation? Ask the client what they would like, right? They're paying you to do something. Ask them, for clarification. It's okay. I promise you. Caesar says, which apparently is difficult. It can be. I think some people just have this natural ability to sound natural when they're narrating, and some other people need a little bit more practice and time. Completely normal. I personally find it easy to follow the ebb and flow of emotions during a read. Not saying I'm perfect, it just comes naturally to me. That said, hello, Angela. Hello, Caesar. Hello, everyone. It'll be a while longer before I start recording again. My dehumidifier was wrecked in transit. Just a comedy of errors, man. Dang, and now I'm waiting for a refund. It sucks, but c'est la vie. At the very least, I have my dry cabinet. Well, that's good. All my mics are in there, all tucked in and cozy-like. The new one's in there, too, snug as a bug in a rug. Can't wait to use it. All in good time. Yeah, I'm sure. Can't wait to hear it. Rustic Hillbilly is here. Good morning. Good morning to you. Dylan is here. Hey, Dylan. Morning, all. I've never heard that, but most, if not all, of my reads are character-driven, so the emotion is built into the script. Yeah, I think you're also one of those people that just has a natural ability to sound natural, right? I don't think we've ever told you that you sound like you're reading words when you're reading or narrating. Not everybody can do that right out the gate, and I think a lot of that is just mental, right? We do that to ourselves because we don't speak like that every day. When you call up your best friend or whomever on the phone, you don't sound like this. You sound like this, right? So I think it's just a mental thing when we hit that record button that we kind of overthink it, And some people do that and some people don't. Jim Williams is here. Good morning, Jim. Sometimes pollen gets on the vocal cords and makes reading aloud harder to do. What do you do for that? I've been using Flonase and it has helped. Allergies, colds, anything to do with the sinuses and throat is a real problem for voice actors, but also, human. I mean, we're all going to have those days and those times when, I'm dealing with it now. I just can't get rid of my sinus issues, but I use the Simply Saline to help flush stuff out. Personal steam inhalers. I'm sure you've seen those. I have one of those that I recommend that I've purchased myself on my website along with other stuff that I recommend. But it's basically a mask and it steam and you inhale the steam. Apparently I need to use it now. But obviously steam, Flonase. If it's more throat, there's throat coat tea, which is great for that. I think it's the slippery elm bark that's in it that really makes it slippery, I suppose. I don't know. It's sort of soothing to the throat, but it does have a black licorice sort of a flavor to it. So if you don't like black licorice, then although they make a different flavor now. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it eucalyptus that they now make that in throat coat tea? I think. But of course, it's going to be different for everybody. You know what the actual problem and what the root cause is, and then your approach to it. But rest, hydration, of course, always something I recommend. Listen to your body. If you're getting raspy, if you can, stop. Give yourself some rest. Rest and hydration. Caesar says to Jim, that's a bummer. Have you considered investing in an air purifier? That's a good one too for a recording space. You can always let it run for a few hours, then switch it off when recording. Otherwise, apart from Flonase, nasal lavage, like what is that machine? Navage, I think it is. With a neti pot works well too. And also maybe a personal steam inhaler could help. If you have funky sinuses like I apparently do, you could use one of those neti pot things or navage, not to be gross, but it just kind of, flushes everything out, to put it nicely. Jim Williams says, good morning from Memphis. Good morning to you, Jim. Christine is here. Good morning to you. Dylan says, I tried a neti pot once. My nose has been broke enough times that only one side works. So I was pretty much just drowning myself. 1 out of 10. Do not recommend. Yeah. And I'm sure these things are all going to work differently for everybody, but you poor thing. Caesar says to Dylan, have you tried brute forcing it? What did I just say? Brute forcing it with a navage. It's like a neti pot, but like 130 psi. Not only will it clean your nose, but it'll also put out a fire in Cincinnati. Dwight says good morning from COVIDlandia. Oh, no. Sorry, Dwight. Pamela says good morning from PNW. Caesar wants to know how your recovery is going, Dwight. Please take it easy until you get better. Dylan says, I might have to get the navage. Not COVID. I hope you're feeling better, Dwight. Yes, me too. I mean, that navage thing, I've heard a lot of mixed reviews on that, and it's not exactly cheap. I'm trying to remember how much it is, but in my head, I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to spend my money on that if it may or may not work. But I guess that's a risk you take with just about anything, huh? A cup of tea says, good morning, all. Morning to you. Donnie says to Jim, if my allergies get too bad, I will take a hot shower. I have to be careful with meds or I will end up sleeping in my studio. I can't take anything with like codeine in it. That same just knocks me right out. A hot shower with the steam, definitely a help. Paximus is here. How you doing, Paximus? I haven't seen you in a while. Good morning, Angela. How are you today? I am fabulous. Thank you. Glad to see you and the rest here today. I've never been told I have a robotic voice. Just starting. Narration reads aloud, but not robotic sounding. Well, that's good. But also keep in mind, and not just to you directly, Paximus, but anybody watching, we become accustomed to our own sound. And because we get used to it, it doesn't mean that it's dialed in or where it should be. This is why having, a group of peers that you can bounce things off of, listen to your demos and your reads for performance and audio quality feedback. It's important to do those things because I was in that bucket myself where I was, it took me about a year and a half before I sought out any kind of coaching. And at that point, I already had some bad habits that were sort of ingrained. I was just used to doing things in a certain way, and they weren't necessarily good. But to me, they sounded fine. We just get used to it, and we don't recognize that we're doing something or sounding a certain way or have too much compression or too much noise reducer or whatever it is, whether it's a performance or, technical. So be sure to get First and foremost, join those Facebook groups. Join a mastermind. Have a group of peers that you're comfortable asking questions of and getting feedback from. And do that often. It's definitely helpful in many different ways. Where was I? Caesar. Here we go. Whenever someone says voiceover is easy, I say, imagine a movie, but you're like the whole cast and it's 10 hours long. That usually shuts them up. Yeah, especially for audiobooks, for sure. Yeah. Don't get me started on those social media posts where they say, do you speak English? Do you want to make $1,000 an hour? We're using just your voice in your pajamas with your iPhone? Yeah. Dylan says, very true, Caesar. Yeah, absolutely. Mark Samuels is here. Good morning, Mark. Hello, Angela and VO robots. Having a background in robotics, let me say robots don't take a breath. No, they don't. And that's another thing. I haven't heard it a whole lot recently, but I used to hear all the time, what do I do with my breaths? Do I remove the breaths? Do I leave the breaths in? How do I reduce them? How do I... Don't worry about breath, especially for audiobooks. If we're talking audiobooks, leave them in there. I mean, take out ones that sound odd, like if they have like a throat gurgle in them or something, or it's a big breath after, a big, huge sentence, or something, super dramatic where it took a lot of energy and you're taking a big breath and you're panting. If it's off-putting or doesn't sound just like a normal breath, like someone talking to someone else and they take a breath, leave those in. Because if we take out all your breaths, I mean, might as well just get AI to do it. It's human. It's a very human thing to do. Leave them in there. Cozy Reviews says, good morning and happy pre-holiday weekend. That's right. Thursday is a holiday here in the U.S. Does everybody have the week off? There's very little people driving around this week. John Freetag is here. Good morning, John. I deal with nervousness when I first start recording. And that is what I was talking about earlier. Very normal. You do get past it. You just have to keep at it. You have to be actively doing it, practicing it, and then you will eventually get past it. I promise you. Takes me a long time to calm down. I have a picture of Humphrey Bogart on the wall. I talk to him and tell him my concerns about the script. That's awesome. I mean, whoever it is, if you have a hero or someone who inspired you to get into voiceover, put their face on the wall. Morgan Freeman. Sigourney Weaver is my VO hero. Put them on the wall and talk to them. It's a great thing. Donnie says, well said, Caesar. Absolutely. Caesar says, 1080p Angela looks excellent on my... Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. No. I am Packsmith says, did you do 720 before? It said it was. Streamyard said, every other video, as far as I know, was... Although I checked it this morning and it was at like 480. I don't know. But up to 720 was the highest that this live stream has been until today. Because I'm doing like a 7-day trial for the 1080p. So I don't know. It's not 100% more clear. Yeah, I didn't think so either. I mean, it looks the same. It looks the same to me. Like 4K or anything like that and stuff. But it's clear and looks great. Okay, well. Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, the reading and the script. We're there. Dylan said, I think I had one of those personal steam inhalers in college. Did you? Mom, look. Jim says, I have Navage. We'll try that. You do? It's $100. I knew it was expensive. But that is definitely something I would not recommend buying pre-owned. Because that's just gross. I mean, You do you, boo, but that would be something that I would want to make sure it was new. Caesar says apparently throat coat has eucalyptus and lemon eshin something. Echinacea. I have no idea how to spell it, let alone say it out loud. Echinacea? Yeah, so it has immune boosting properties as well. Throat coat. This is not sponsored by Throat Coat or Navage. FYI. Yeah, Navage is not cheap. Renee says, hello, has anyone tried a saline mist spray? Worked for a few hours. Yeah, I have I do the Simply Saline nasal mist. I also get those allergy sprays from like Costco. I get like 4 of them for $30 or whatever it is, because everybody in my house has allergies. So we always have one of those on hand. And those tend to work too, but really it's just an antihistamine. So really the only thing that it would do for me is maybe clear up a little inflammation, but there's no histamines to block for me. I'm not really allergic to everything like everybody else is. So for me, I do the nasal mist, the Simply Saline, and a steam inhaler, and just keep hydrated. And that seems to help. Where can I find peers to listen to my work? Well, I have a Facebook group. You can start there, the VO Workshop. There's over 2,000 voice actors and various levels of experience in that group. And I do allow my members to post demos for review. So you could do that. I also have my Platinum group, of course, which we've talked about many times here on my live chat. And there we actually go through auditions and demos together. And then we give feedback on them as a group, because multiple perspectives is better than just one. I mean, one is great, but multiple perspectives is even better, especially when you have opinions from somebody, excuse me, that may have a more developed ear because they're more on the technical end of things than the performance end of things, right? So getting feedback from a group is very advantageous. But there's a ton of voiceover groups on Facebook that you can join. But not all of them allow you to post demos for feedback, but I do in the VO Workshop because I think it's that important. Coffee break. All right. Tycon Delar says, I suffer from Mr. Voiceover syndrome. Yeah, I did too. As soon as I start recording, it's annoying, but family members find it funny. I can't help sounding broadcaster-ish, so I start with, hey, man. Exactly. That's exactly what I mean. I think I mentioned this when we talked about the 1, 2, counting to 5 and then acting, is hitting record first, right? When you're about to do an audition or record something, hit the record button on your DAW and then cover your DAW with your script so you're not even seeing it. And then start practicing it. Practice your script out loud. And then when you're ready, give it your final take. You can always cut out all of that stuff. In the beginning, you cut out all of that dead air, all of that practice time. Who cares? You know what I mean? But it's out of your mind. That hitting a record button, that might help get over the Mr. Voice Actor voice, right? When you're being broadcastery. And then, of course, the lead in or the jump off or whatever you want to call it. Hey, man, guess what? Or hey, look, or whatever you want to use, whatever helps to get you into that frame of mind. Paxima says, oh, for sure, I'm practicing more these days. It is easy to get used to doing things, getting used to our sound. So guess who's joining? That's awesome. Caesar says to Jim, might I casually recommend joining Angela's Platinum group? There are lots of peers to make there. We're very supportive and are invested in everyone else's success. We are. And I know it's my group, so I'm a little biased, I know, but I mean, in my 6 years in doing this, I've been part of many groups and circles, and my platinum group, in my experience, is one of the more supportive and non-judgmental. Everybody's there with the same goal, is to make themselves and everyone else around them better. It's all supportive and constructive, and it's an amazing group of people. Amazing group of people. Caesar's not wrong. Dwight says, thanks for the well wishes. I am actually doing much better, and just as in 5 minutes ago, tested negative for the first time in 1 week and a half. Actually working today. Logistics mostly, and organizational meeting mentorship. That's great. That's great. Negative test results. That's awesome. It's a long time. COVID. Unwelcome, long-staying guest. Caesar says, people who say you can get rich quick with voiceover is like Grant Cardone saying you can invest in real estate with $300. Makes you want to hit someone with a refrigerator. That would be quite the feat in and of itself. But I get you. My cup of tea says, I wish I had the week off. Working an office job and we only get 4th of July off. Well, at least you get the 4th of July off. My fiance has a half day that he has to work that day. My boss is a little bit more lenient. However, my boss is making me work on July 4th. So, Caesar says, I have a funny relationship with nervousness. It hits after I'm done narrating, not during. Then I stare at the waveforms for a good 2 to 3 hours before hitting the submit button. Yeah, that doubt, that, dare I say, imposter syndrome, perhaps, is what causes it. I mean, imposter syndrome is real. And I think that also has a little bit to do with maybe freezing up while you're narrating and causing you to sound robotic because you're overthinking things. Excuse me. So I think when I talk about fear causing a lot of the issues that we experience, that we do it to ourselves, I think recognizing that you're fearful of something is the first step. Recognizing it. And then how do you deal with it? What is the best way for you to deal with it? For me, the best thing that I have done was to get organized. So everything wasn't just kind of floating around my head. I was getting like an agenda book where I can write things down and stay on top of deadlines, appointments, meetings, things like that. Time blocks where I have to work, time blocks where I'm taking a break. If you have to write all that stuff down like I do, get an agenda book and write it down. That will help to alleviate some of that fear of being late, of not turning it in on time, whatever it is, missing something. And then also, for me, looking at everything through a positive lens. Instead of looking at someone as competition, their family. Instead of looking at, my voice being suited for everything at every point in every project, and then being disappointed when it's not. I don't expect myself to be. I look at myself as, I'm a voice actor. I may not like my voice, but it's not my opinion that counts. It's the client's opinion. If they think it'll fit for their project, great. But I'm not going to bring myself down because I didn't get something, or that I'm not suited for everything, because I'm not. I'm just not. I have to be realistic, and I have to look at everything through a positive lens. Everything is meant to happen for a reason. If I don't get that big job that I really wanted, it just means that something else is coming for me soon that I needed to be free for. Not this other thing. I have to look at everything through a positive lens. It helps me to alleviate and, diminish some of that fear that we self-impose most of the time, if not all the time. And it surfaces in many different ways. So if you can recognize that's what it is, then that is the first step. Then you can work on ways to reduce it, remove it, reframe it, right? Super important. What tangent was that? Jim says, you look good with 1080. Beyond that is yeah, I agree. Excuse me. I think 720 was just fine. It just got really hot in here. Maybe it's all the hot air that I'm spewing. Yeah, probably. Or the hot lights. Who knows? But yeah, 1080s, it doesn't look that different to me at all. Maybe a little clearer, but I don't know if it's worth the extra whatever, $20 a month or whatever it is. Mom look, yeah. Yeah. Dwight says, Angela, the 1080p looks good on you, especially when you give us the mom look. This mom look. Jim says, I bought Navage from well, I would hope so. I would hope so. Definitely not buy one of those new or pre-owned. Christine says, yeah, it's $99, thinking I need it because of my sinuses. You know, I might have to just bite the bullet. I hate spending money on myself. You know, I get like the mom guilt when I buy myself anything because all my money goes to either the business or my family, never to myself. I know. But I might just have to bite the bullet and do it. If it works. Caesar says, how many mom looks have you gotten so far, Dylan? I think I'm up to 76. You know what? Let's do this really quick. Let's hop back over to the poll. So again, the poll today was, how often do you hear that you sound robotic in your voiceovers? We have 37 votes. So we got about 20 more votes than last time. 46% of you said never. That's great. You guys are all like natural storytellers, natural readers, out louders, voice actors. 27% of you said once in a while. None of you said all the time, so that's great. 27% of you said I haven't started yet. So again, for those of you who haven't gotten started with this yet, I'm hoping that something we've talked about it will help you in maybe overcoming the fear of XYZ, or, you know, using the lead in or the jump off or practicing a few times will help you to not ever hear that. Hopefully. All right, where did I leave off? Oh, here we go. John says, be careful of using humidifiers if you're using an AC to cool your studio. You're basically creating a war between the two, and your AC will lose. Luckily, here in the desert, I don't have to deal with a whole lot of humidity, but for those of you in humid areas, words of advice. Donnie says, damn, mom looking 1080p. My life has reached a new level. And on a 7. No. I like to think of all of you watching me on like a phone screen. That's it. That's about as big as it gets. Introverts unite. Dylan says, I started a whole after you, Caesar. I'm only at 54. Caesar says, got up those numbers, Dylan. Dwight says, Navage works great, but like any air moisture type device, i.e. CPAP, Navage, nebulizers, you have to clean it every day. I would hope so. And use distilled water to prevent Legionnaire's disease. Yes, it is a fire hose. Oh my gosh. Christine says, Navage, $99. I probably need it for my sinuses too. The saline action is less drying than the mucus clearing tablets. Oh, for sure. And here, listen, there's risk you take with everything, you know, in one way, shape, or form. So if you take tablets, it dries you out too much, which could cause irritation or nosebleeds. If you do Navage, there could be, if you don't clean it properly, there could be, bacteria and stuff left behind. I mean, there's really risk with anything that you do, right? You just kind of have to weigh all of the options and choose the one that best works for you and try it. I'm not a medical doctor. We're just talking educational purposes only. Donnie says, I still have days where I battle my I'm not good enough demons, and I'm starting to win more than I lose recently. Well, that's good. I would think at a certain point, in getting this started, in the practicing and doing this, and in the maybe getting a couple of jobs or getting some auditions under your belt. And you can look back when you have those I'm not good enough moments, or the imposter monster comes and knocks on your studio door. You can stop and think back to the very beginning when you first started, and remember remember all of the little wins. This is why it's important to celebrate all the little wins and look back on those, and then realize how far you have actually come. And that will help you to kick that imposter monster out. If you can remember to celebrate all your little wins, and even write them down if you have to, and even make little goals for yourself. Once I submit that first audition, I'm going to eat a Heath bar, or, reward myself with something, right? You could do that too. So it's memorable, right? It's notable and memorable. And I mean, yeah, write those things down. And then, the imposter monster. Is that what we were talking about? Getting old stinks. But writing these things down is definitely going to help you when, you start to doubt yourself and you go, okay, I have come a whole lot further than I thought I did. Comparisonitis was the other thing. Remembering that other people have walked a different path, started at a different time, and probably with a different purpose and a different intent and a different pathway altogether. So you're not really comparing apples to apples when you're comparing yourself to another voice actor. You probably have different voice attributes. You have different, deliveries, specialties. We're so vastly different in every way, just about, other than the profession that we have. So you can't really compare yourself. It's apples and oranges, right? So you have to remember those things when the imposter monster comes knocking. Jim says, ever heard of a falsetto VO actor? I could do some kid stuff with it, but don't know where to try that. Yes, if you have that kind of versatility, audiobooks, animation, cartoon, if you think cartoons, video games, things like that, those would be good applications for that kind of range. Dwight says, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps boost the site and helps our mentor, Angela. We love you, Angela. Oh, thank you. Even when I lose my train of thought. It's either tangents or I'm just completely lost. I mean, pick one. Jim says, another VO coach says to do copy once, then read same copy for a few weeks later. The improvement is noticeable, he says. Absolutely. And this is, I would assume, practice copy. But yeah, if you can read through something, if you're going through something, say you're going to submit an audition, and you read through the copy, you do the audition. If you save that script and come back to it weeks later and then do it again, you would definitely notice a difference, for sure. For sure. Voiceover Van Deen, hello. I haven't seen you in a while. Afternoon all. No cup of tea here in the UK today. Sitting, chilling in the garden with the doggo and a beer. That sounds so nice. What kind of doggo do you have? Caesar says, also, Angela's group has all sorts. Seasoned narrators, spicy narrators. Excuse me. Narrators seasoned in spice. Sound engineers, gear enthusiasts, microphone addicts, Mac users, Windows users, Linux users, Reaper users, Audition users, Audacity users. I mean, we have all kinds of experience and preferences, I suppose. And it all comes together to make a very nice voiceover group stew. Caesar says to voiceover Van Deen, sounds like a fun, relaxing time. Give the doggos some of that beer. Watch it go roof. You just wanted me to say that, didn't you? And I know I don't recommend that you give the dog beer. That was Caesar. Joe Colazzo says it only makes a big difference in gaming for the most part or movies. For you mean like the jump off perhaps or the lead in? And you could do that, the lead in, because it is very helpful for video games and like animation work, but it's very helpful in everything else too. For audiobooks, if you're trying to get to a certain tone, the lead in that you choose, again, if you're trying to be conversational, you can say, hey, man, like somebody else said, or hey, Angela, guess what? Lead into something else. Video games, there's all kinds of lead ins or even like nonverbal things that you can do, like a sigh, like you're clearing your throat, like you're just disgusted. You can do all of those things. The client may thank you for those things. Or if it's not a video game or something that doesn't need that stuff left in, cut it out later when you edit it. But they help. They definitely help. Mark Samuel says, how would a robotic voice change its tone in the middle of a read? I think, well, we're talking about voice actors here. And if they went from robotic sounding and then went into a more natural read in the second half of the read, they probably got more comfortable. Because it usually takes about a minute to 2 minutes to sort of warm up and find your groove. This is why you'll also hear other like voiceover coaches or, thought leaders and things say to read the first 2 minutes and then at that point start over. Or when you get to the end, read the first couple paragraphs again because you've warmed up, you've found the groove, you got comfortable with the read. You can usually hear a vast difference between the first couple of minutes and the remainder of the read. So that's usually what happens there, is that the voice artist became comfortable with the read and didn't re-record the first 2 minutes. That's what I think. Fraggin' Wagon says, I'm afraid not to get my first gig and I'm afraid to get it. Totally relatable. I think a lot of us would totally relate to that. I know I did. It's terrifying and exhilarating and all of the emotions, all the feels all at one time. And that is why the first step is usually the hardest, because as soon as you make yourself available, now you're available. What do you do when you get that first gig? Well, you record it, you work with the client to make sure that they're happy, it gets completed, and you move on to the next one. I mean, don't make it scarier than it actually is. And then it's just rinse and repeat. Talk with the client. Make sure that you're giving them what they need and move on to the next one. Rinse and repeat. Don't make it scarier than it is. But I know that feeling. You will get past it. You just got to do it. Get it done. Jim says, I am just confident, crazy to think I should try this out and not feel like I am not good enough to just try. Yeah, just try it. I mean, the best thing you can do is just to hit that record button and start recording. First one's done. First time recording yourself in your DAW, done. You mark that off your list. And then send it to the group that you belong to and say, hey, assuming that you've actually taken my advice and joined a Facebook group or like my platinum group, for example, and say, hey, guys, what does this sound like? How does this sound? And then you get feedback on that and then done, off the list, right? It's just a process. You just got to start somewhere and then just keep going, keep building, keep growing, keep learning, right? It's a process. And again, that process is going to take as long as it's going to take. Don't force it. Don't think you're going too slow or you're going too fast. Everyone's going to have a different path, and it's going to take everyone a different amount of time because it's your path. Their path is their path. Don't worry about what they're doing. They're still reaching their goals, but in their way. You have your way. Your goal is different from their goal, right? Again, like for perspective, I've said this before, other people want to be, play for the NFL. I'm fine with college football, right? Everybody's got a different endpoint and path. God, tangent number 4, 5. Good God. Oh, we have a super chat. Hold on. Hold. I'm coming. Dwight. Thank you, Dwight. That was very sweet of you. Just because I miss you in the group. Keep it up, my friend. Well, thank you, Dwight. I appreciate you. That was very kind. Thank you, Dwight. You're so sweet. Paximus says, I have more time currently to record my narration VO stuff now, so join the group to get feedback moving forward. Happy to be joining your group. Imposter monster. Is that what we're talking about? Yeah. Yeah, the imposter syndrome, imposter monster. I'm sure there's a lot of other names for it. But yeah, pretty much. I'd be glad to have you, Paximus. The more the merrier. The more perspectives we can get, the better. The better off and stronger we'll all be. Donnie says, okay, so like when I finally get a video game gig, I will start wearing pants. Jim says how to join. My Facebook group or the Platinum group? Facebook group, just go to Facebook and then you go to groups and then in the search bar you type in the VO workshop. The VO workshop. I don't know why I'm doing this. And it should pull us up amongst a bunch of others. And there's a lot of great groups out there. If we're talking about my Platinum group, you go to my website, voiceoverangela.com. And then you go to the, what is it? I think it's the VO Workshop tab. And then you'll have the plans and pricing page where I have some of like my mentorship programs. And there's also the Platinum group or the Platinum member. That is what we're talking about. And that is a monthly subscription. We meet every week, every Thursday night for at least 2 hours. And we do all kinds of stuff. We do reads for each other. We review auditions. We talk about websites. We talk about how to set up Fiverr gigs. I mean, almost anything you can think of, we do that together as a group. And it's fabulous. Voiceover Van Deen says she's a miniature schnauzer called Florence. That's so cute. Florence, what a cute name. Oh my God. Caesar says to Voiceover Van Deen, she must be adorable. Put her next to your car. She could be Florence and the Machine. Donnie says, Jim, go to voiceoverangela.com and it will be on her page. How to join your group. Yeah, the Platinum, that's how you do it on my website. Dwight says, I like to use the Platinum group because it is filled with supportive but straightforward shooters. No trolls in there, safe space. Yes, that is probably one of the best things. I don't like trolls. I don't like people who are just out to, find the negative in everything, to put other people down, to make themselves look better. We'll find none of those in the Platinum group. And if there are, then they are removed. I don't want those people in there. It is a safe space, and that's what I want. I wanted a place for people of different walks, paths, goals to grow together and feel comfortable to ask the questions, to just be themselves, have a good time, and learn and grow together. That's what I wanted. And it's hard to find that. It's hard to find that. And I'm happy to say that we have that. Donnie says, Jim, there is a link. Can't remember it off the top of my empty head. Actually, I think there's links in the description of this video. If you look below the description for this video, down below, there should be a myriad of links that you could click for a number of different reasons. And joining the Platinum group is one of them. Yes, sir. All right, y'all. I think looks like that's going to be it for today. So if there's something, if you're watching this in team replay, or even if you're watching this live, if there's something that you guys want to talk more in depth about, if there's something that you're burning to ask, again, I don't, there are no stupid questions. You're growing a business, so there's going to be a lot of questions that maybe some of us have, had come up before, or maybe you're helping somebody else out because they have the same question, but they're too afraid to ask. There's no dumb questions. So if there's something that you want to know more about, talk about as a group, please leave that in the comments. Otherwise, I will be here next week, same bat time, same bat channel. And until then, I'll see you. Have a great week. Bye.